Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Round Table. We invite you to listen to a discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news. Saludos amigos oyentes de USRA Radio. Les habla Fernando Méndez desde la ciudad del amor fraternal, from the city of brotherly love. Marilyn Rodriguez is our director today, and we have a special guest, Fernando TREVINO. He's a political consultant, guru, very knowledgeable person in terms of how and when and what to do about becoming a candidate. So highly recommended. He comes highly recommended. There you are.
Morning, Tocayo. How are you?
And also, Fernando, among other things, he had his own show here on USRA Radio. Yeah, but he decided he was going to make real money.
I wish.
So, what's going on, Tocayo?
Not much, Tocayo. Thank you for having me. It's great to join you and all of our friends at USALA. And obviously, happy to chat news and politics with you for the next hour, but also to highlight the redistricting process happening in Pennsylvania right now, the importance that our community participates in the upcoming hearings, and just excited. It's a very, very exciting time in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Why don't we start with that? Because, I mean, I have other things. I usually have an agenda that includes like city and state and national news and international news from Tokyo and Cuba and all that. But this is a very important issue, this redistricting. So, and you are deeply involved in this process. So will you please go and tell us what?
Sure, thank you. Yes, one of my many hats is to be the state director for NDRC, the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, under the leadership of Attorney General Eric Holder. We have been working on redistricting for quite some time, and this is the most important time pretty much of the whole cycle. The process has started in Pennsylvania. Right now, the Legislative Reapportionment Commission in Pennsylvania has been created. It's working already, and there are a few upcoming public hearings where community members from every community of interest, but obviously in this specific case, our interest is with the Latino community, can actually participate and make their case. What's this process? Basically, the redistricting process, as I have shared with your audience before, it's the process where the new political maps are going to be drawn. After the census is completed, we know how many people live in Pennsylvania. So we know now how many people should live on every state senator district and in every state representative district. So the lines that actually conform the district have to be redrawn in order to accommodate that new number. And we need to make sure that our community is represented in the process, right? It's very important that we have a voice in order to have more representation in Harrisburg. The very two quick examples that I could tell you is that just based on the raw numbers, we should have, for example, 2 Latino state representatives out of Lehigh Valley, and we have none. Why? Because the big number of Latinos living in Lehigh Valley has been cracked. That means that our community has been divided and they are put in different districts. So we don't have the majority in one district, and hence we don't have representation. And in North Philadelphia,
Fernando, that's
yes,
a deliberate action, right? That is done by the Republicans, basically.
That's what it's called, gerrymandering. And to be honest, gerrymandering happens in both political parties, but usually it's done by the party that controls the redistricting process. And the Republicans have controlled the redistricting process in Pennsylvania for the last 20 to 30 years. So yes, in the case of Pennsylvania specifically, gerrymandering, that's that manipulation of the maps to reflect a non-existent majority. It's been done by Republicans. And what do I mean by that? Before getting to the Philadelphia example, is that if we check the result of the elections for state representatives, for example, in the last 10 years, why we have elections every 2 years to elect our state representatives. In almost every single one of the last 5 elections, when you count all of the numbers, all of the votes who were casted for Democratic candidates versus the numbers who were casted for Republican candidates, and again, this is for state representatives, Democrats have had the majority of the votes. Democrats have a larger number of votes. However, the way that the districts are cracked and gerrymandered, Republicans have kept the majority in Harrisburg for the last 10 years. And that is the problem. Pennsylvania is a Democratic leaning state. Our legislature in Harrisburg should reflect that. So my last example with our community in specific, it's North Philadelphia, right? We have two great friends of the community, Angel Cruz and Danilo Burgos, as state representatives, but the raw number of the Latino community just in North Philly, it actually says that we should have a third Latino district in North Philly. But because our community is cracked, our community is sometimes paired with African Americans, so we compete against each other instead of having our own district. That precludes us to have more and better representation, so better in terms of numbers. So that's the process of redistricting and gerrymandering, and that's why it's so important that our community is informed.
Well, yes, this is, at this moment, it's a problem whenever there is Republican attempts to squash the vote. First of all, that they have been doing that all over the country, so we can talk about that a little bit. But this gerrymandering, as you say, both parties have done it. But here's a quandary. Philadelphia is a Democratic city, basically. It has been so since 1953, the last time we had a Republican mayor. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand why Democrats cannot have the same impetus around the state. As you say, it's a Democratic-leaning state, but in fact, it is controlled by the Republicans.
But again, the one, Philadelphia, Lehigh Valley, Scranton, the city of Lancaster, the city of York, the city of Reading, the city of Harrisburg. We're talking about cities that tend to be Democrats, right? The urban areas of the city. However, the suburbs and the rural communities are very heavily Republican. That's why the balance in the state. And we're not saying that we should gerrymander the map so Democrats have majority of everything. But the reality is that the way that the legislature is composed right now, it doesn't reflect the political reality that Pennsylvania has. And again, we know that in 2016, President Trump won. Last year, President Biden won. So in terms of federal politics, it usually goes back and forth. That's why we are considered to be a battleground state. But in terms of the raw numbers, in terms of the voting for state representatives and for the state Senate, we should have larger numbers than just what it reflects right now. And again, the reality is that the process has been controlled by Republicans. Republicans have gerrymandered the map, so they keep control of that majority. And only every 10 years, we get to draw the new lines. That's why it's very important that we participate, that our community is informed, that we provide even public testimony, right? Because we can provide public testimony before this commission. So we express what's happening to our community and how we would like to see the maps drawn differently, so we have more representation in Harrisburg.
So that is the remedy to have a more homogeneous district where, say, Hispanics or Blacks or Asians can have their own representative.
Exactly. Look, what we're fighting for is to have fair maps. What is a fair map for us in Pennsylvania? Again, one, it's a democratic state, right? So it should reflect, the map should reflect that in a fair way. The other piece that is going to be very important just this time around is that the census data is going to be released only in a couple of weeks, in August 16, maybe 20 days. However, we have preliminary numbers that show that a population shift in the Commonwealth, right? We have a population moving from Western Pennsylvania, more the rural areas of central Western Pennsylvania, moving into Eastern Pennsylvania. So a fair map also should reflect that we need to have more districts in eastern Pennsylvania, in southeastern, in the Philadelphia region specifically, because that's where the population is growing. And western Pennsylvania, specifically the rural areas of southwest and kind of central West Pennsylvania, are losing population. So we should have some of those districts move to eastern Pennsylvania to reflect the numbers. But at the end, look, as long as we protect municipal lines, as long as we protect communities of interest, as long as we unnecessarily don't break or pact Latinos, African Americans, and other communities of interest, we're going to get to a fair map, and we're going to get to better times for Pennsylvania.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, and I don't know how you can achieve that, but I mean, we can discuss what strategies are being used to get to that point.
That's what we're here to
Very
Cayo.
difficult. So we're going to take a very quick break here en la radio. Les habla Fernando Méndez, nuestro invitado especial, Fernando Treviño, y Marilyn Rodríguez, controlando el tablero. Regresamos en un momento. Bueno, señores oyentes de Gusta la Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Round Table. Les habla Fernando Méndez. Fernando Treviño is our guest today, and we are discussing redistricting, gerrymandering, all the sins that Republicans are committing against the people who want to vote, against fairness. And that's, I don't know how we're going to remedy. I'm of two minds here, and I have a conflict because I'm fed up with Philadelphia having Democrats for the last 60 plus years in power. And by the same token, I want Democrats to control more of Pennsylvania. So how do we accomplish this thing?
Well, once I stop speaking on behalf of NDRC, I'm happy to jump into that conundrum. but look, I guess that how can we influence the process? How our community can participate in this? It's doing it right now. Right, Pennsylvania has a process to develop legislative maps that it's called a political commission. The two majority leaders of the Republican Party on each chamber in Harrisburg are members of this commission. The two Democratic minority leaders in both chambers are part of this commission. And then the Supreme Court appoints the fifth member that serves as the chair and the deciding factor to that. So what happens is that the Pennsylvania Legislative Reapportionment Commission, these five individuals that I described, they host public hearings. They hire professional mappers, professional data analysts, and what they do is that once they take the census data into consideration, they hear from the public their arguments to keep some communities together or some communities of interest better represented. Then they come up with the new maps. Once the new maps, the first round of the new maps are produced, technically they are supposed to share those maps. They are supposed then to host more public hearings so people can provide feedback on the new maps. And then they revise the maps and they make a final recommendation. And that's pretty much the new legislative maps. Now, either party or an affected party can actually file a lawsuit against those new maps. The case goes to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court decides if they sustain those maps or if they order the commission to draw new maps. So how can we participate in this process? Again, right now we have a website where the commission is publishing all of their upcoming hearings. And actually they have a tool where our community can go in there and provide testimony directly online. There are two ways that they can do it. They can register to be an in-person witness for one of these upcoming hearings, or the other option is just directly to provide testimony in this website. And if you give me 1 second, I'm going to confirm the website for our friends. So
I would
the
like to have
website,
it so that we
the
can
website,
also help.
yeah, the website is redistricting.state.pa.us. Redistricting.state.pa.us. And in that website, it again contains the background of the commission, the bios of every member of the commission, and then obviously it also has the possibility of providing written testimony, or of loading images. If there are some savvy friends who know how to create a map, they can do that as well. And they will have in the next couple of weeks a possibility where friends can go to a specific database where they can draw their own maps as an exercise, right? But the most important here, Tocayo, for our friends, and happy to turn into Spanish at any time you tell me, is that as of now, the commission has the website in Spanish, in English only. So we're working with them already because they need to have this website available for ESL community. So they're working on hopefully getting some basic translation for Spanish and for other languages. But so that's what we're fighting for. We need to have a transparent and fair process in Pennsylvania. A fair and transparent process is going to take us to fair and transparent maps. And again, those maps for us should reflect the reality in Pennsylvania right now, not 10 years ago, or not the reality that Republicans want to gerrymander as they have done in the last 20 years.
Yeah, very important information to impart, as you say, in not only in Spanish, but I suppose in other languages also. Mm-hmm. But in one decision, one recent vote, the public took away powers from the governor. And that was lack of information. Somehow people were not told clearly what the consequences were of that voting yes or no on this proposition. And so the government lost some of the emergency powers that Governor Wolf had.
Yes, that's correct. I think that Republicans did a better job at exploiting, to be honest, the desperation that people has across the Commonwealth. Obviously, the pandemic has hit very hard to many communities, specifically the Latino community. But at the same time, and beyond the health-related issues, obviously we have the economic impact and how a lot of small and pretty much micro and small businesses were affected by some of these restrictions. Now, the governor, I believe he did an amazing job at balancing the priorities of some of these business versus the health priorities and the emergency that the pandemic had. But Republicans were very savvy, again, at exploiting that desperation of small business owners. And to be honest, keeping that Trumpist message of, oh, COVID is not important. We are fine. Keep going, ahead with your life. So what Republicans did was, let's take away those emergency powers from the governor so we now get to control them. Now, it doesn't say Republicans will get to control those emergency powers. It says the state legislature. So we circle back, right, to redistricting in the point that the majority of people have voted to have a Democratic majority in the state legislature, but because Republicans have gerrymandered and they control it. So if we get activated, if we participate, if we help in the political process, we may be able to push back. If we have fair maps, the legislature would reflect the political reality of Pennsylvania. That political reality would be that Democrats should be in control of the state Congress, and then Democrats can work with the next governor to retake those emergency powers back.
As a PSA, there is an upcoming hearing on redistricting August 3rd at 6 p.m.
That's correct. The way that the LRC or the Legislative Reapportionment Commission is doing this is that they are hosting two kind of hearings. One, when they invite specialists, people with technical knowledge on all of this stuff. And in that hearing, only those special guests can participate. So that there will be one on Tuesday at 2 p.m. The one that is being publicized right now is the hearing that will take place also on Tuesday at 6 p.m. And that's the one where they are going to take feedback from the community in general. So if our friends visit right now, redistricting.state.pa.us, they can actually find the link to this hearing and they can request to be a speaker. They can actually click, register, and they can provide testimony during that hearing. I know that it may sound a little bit intimidating. It may sound a little bit complicated for friends who doesn't have the political acumen, let's put it this way, to participate in a process like this. We're more than happy to help. We are going to start having trainings, weekly trainings for people that want to participate in order to let them know how the technical components of providing testimony, but also how to write their own testimony, reflecting not only their personal story and their community, but the issue that they care about and why they want to be part of this process. So if you don't mind another commercial, my email, it's Fernando, no, I'm sorry, it's F Trevino at democraticredistricting.com. F Trevino at, it should be Trevino, but so F Trevino at democraticredistricting.com. Anyone who is interested can email me there. We can provide training. We can provide help to give their own testimony. Obviously, it's bilingual. Obviously, we have staff that speaks both English and Spanish. And we're actually working with friends right now from the Chinese American community to also be able to provide help on simplified Chinese, so friends from different parts of Asia can participate.
Speaking of bilingual information, so can we podemos discutir un poquito de esto de lo que estamos hablando en español, ¿no? Esto
claro.
De tener que intervenir de alguna manera, de contribuir a que se cambie este asunto de gerrymandering, que se llama, que es una camisa de fuerza que ponen en ciertos distritos para cambiar la composición del distrito, para que en este momento, pues hasta ahora, solamente para beneficiar a los republicanos.
Así es, tocayo, es un problema que ha pasado en Pensilvania por muchos años. Como siempre te he platicado, hay que ser honestos, esto es un problema que otros estados lo tienen con los demócratas para mantener una mayoría demócrata, pero en Pensilvania la realidad es que los republicanos han mantenido el control del proceso de distribución de los nuevos mapas electorales y por eso se han aventado, como decimos en México, a manipularlos de tal manera que aunque la mayoría de la gente en Pensilvania vota por candidatos demócratas, los republicanos tienen todavía el control y la mayoría del Congreso. Básicamente, para dar el resumen de 30 segundos, el proceso de redistritación pasa cada 10 años, después de que se termina el censo, por eso es importantísimo participar en el censo, y una vez que se sabe el número nuevo de ciudadanos que cada estado, se vuelven a dibujar los distritos electorales para saber quién tiene que representarnos. Este es un proceso que si se manipulan los mapas, si se divide nuestra comunidad o si se empaqueta nuestra comunidad en un área específicamente, perdemos el poder de representación. Por eso es muy importante participar. Los dos ejemplos claros, como te comenté hace rato, el ejemplo más importante es Lehigh Valley, donde tenemos una gran cantidad de latinos en Allentown, en Bethlehem, en toda la zona de Lehigh Valley, pero no tenemos ni siquiera un representante estatal. ¿Por qué? Porque la manera en que los mapas fueron manipulados, dividieron o hicieron cracking, como decimos en inglés, dividieron a la comunidad en donde no tenemos la mayoría o no podemos ser una influencia fuerte en ninguno de los distritos. Por eso, volver a dibujar esos mapas que reflejen una realidad política de Pensilvania ahorita es muy importante. El otro ejemplo es Filadelfia. Con toda honestidad, tenemos a dos grandes amigos de la comunidad, en Ángel Cruz y Danilo Burgos, como representantes estatales del norte de Filadelfia, pero la realidad, basado en nuestros números, deberíamos de tener un tercer representante. ¿Por qué no lo tenemos? Nuevamente, la comunidad es dividida, o la comunidad se empaqueta en un distrito también con afroamericanos, con la comunidad afroamericana, y qué pasa, competimos entre nosotros por un distrito que pudiera ser, si es dibujado de manera justa, más latino o más afroamericano, ¿verdad? Y que cada quien tenga sus representantes. Por eso es muy importante que participemos. Y lo otro que comentabas ahorita, todo este proceso se hace a través de la Comisión de Redistritación de Legislativa de Pensilvania. Ya compartimos la página de internet. Desafortunadamente, la página de internet todavía no está en español. Ya estamos trabajando con ellos para que tengan la versión en español lista. Y en esta página de internet, que la repetimos, redistricting.state.pa.us, ahí pueden encontrar toda la información, y ahí también pueden participar. Ahorita hay dos maneras específicas de participar. La primera es escribiendo un testimonio. Pueden participar directamente ahí en línea, no tienen que hacerlo en persona. Pero si quieren hacerlo en persona, hay una lista, hay un calendario de las siguientes audiencias. No está actualizado, pero lo van actualizando lo más que se pueda, y se pueden registrar para ser testigos en esa audiencia en específico. Y como decíamos en inglés hace unos minutos, es un proceso que puede ser un poco intimidante, es un proceso que puede ser un poco complicado para alguien que no está metido en esto todo el tiempo. Entonces, mi organización NDRC o el Comité Nacional Demócrata de Redistritación, vamos a empezar a dar entrenamientos todas las semanas en inglés y en español para que la gente entienda el proceso, para que la gente pueda ir a la página de internet y dar su testimonio en línea, o también para que se pueda registrar y ser un testigo en persona.
Sí, es muy importante porque hay la tendencia a ignorar, cuando hay las elecciones importantes para presidente, mucha gente está prestando atención y sigue el desarrollo de los temas, etcétera, pero para elecciones intermedias o elecciones especiales, el interés queda muy bajo, ¿no? Especialmente hemos visto entre la población hispana, a veces los números son insignificantes, y por esa razón muchos políticos no nos prestan atención. Dicen, bueno, ¿para qué voy a invertir dinero y tiempo en una comunidad que no vota por mí o no vota por en general, pues?
Así es, esto ha sido un problema, como se dice en inglés, ¿qué es primero, el huevo o la gallina? ¿No? La famosa broma que dicen. ¿Por qué? Porque los oficiales electos dicen, si los latinos no salen a votar, ¿para qué voy a invertir en ellos? Y los latinos dicen, bueno, si no van a invertir en mí, ¿para qué salgo a votar? Si no me van a representar como quieran. Entonces, aquí tiene que ser un momento en el que la comunidad tiene que tomar responsabilidad y sentido cívico y decir, tenemos que salir a participar de una u otra y poder, ¿cómo se llama?, poner presión. Al mismo tiempo, líderes como tú, como yo y como muchos amigos que nos ven, también tienen que poner presión directamente a los oficiales electos para que hagan un poco más de atención. Y por eso, la verdad, yo me siento muy, muy honrado de estar participando en este proceso, porque una organización como NDRC, que como te comenté hace rato, es dirigida por Eric Holder, que fue el Procurador General de Justicia del presidente Obama, me escogió a mí, a un migrante de México, para manejar esto en general en todo el estado. Yo no solo estoy haciendo esto para la comunidad latina, yo estoy manejando toda la estrategia de redistritación para todo el estado de Pensilvania, para esta organización, y es una manera en la que organizaciones independientes como NDRC empoderan a minorías para participar, nos demuestran el interés y nos motivan a que participemos y que podamos invitar a nuestra comunidad para que también participen en el proceso.
Sí, con vista a esto es importante que tú puedas volver a este programa para ayudarme a dar buena información sobre este proceso. Apenas tengas otra oportunidad, si tienes algo que publicar, que informarnos, por favor. Esto es muy importante.
Sí, con mucho gusto, tocayo. Ya sabes que siempre es un placer acompañarte para hablar de estos temas y hablar de cualquier otro tema que le interese a nuestros amigos. Y sí, vamos a estar tratando de visitarte seguido, sobre todo cada que sepamos que va a haber nuevas audiencias para que la gente participe. Y la verdad también tenemos que platicar un poquito más adelante o en otro programa del proceso de redistritación para los distritos para los congresistas. Todo lo que estamos hablando ahorita es el proceso para diputados y senadores a nivel estatal, pero hay un proceso, no parecido, pero hay otro proceso en Pensilvania para dibujar los distritos electorales de la gente que nos representa en Washington. Entonces, con gusto regresamos cuando nos inviten.
Sí, muy importante. Y, sí, no, yo te agradezco mucho esta contribución porque es importante que demos buena información. Se trata precisamente de eso, porque hay tanta noticia, tanta basura que ponen en los medios sociales y la gente se confunde.
Así es.
Así que es muy importante para nosotros ayudar a poner las cosas en claro y a avisarle a la gente que hay una decisión importante que hay que tomar, que hay un voto importante. Hubiéramos sabido más sobre el hecho de que le iban a quitar poderes al gobernador, si hubiera hecho un esfuerzo más grande. Yo creo que eso fue negligencia de parte del Partido Demócrata, se me hace a mí, digo yo, pero bueno.
Respeto tu opinión, digamos, pongámoslo así por lo pronto.
Por lo pronto. Bueno, mira, tocayo, vamos a tomar otra breve pausa, la última breve pausa aquí en Úsala Radio. Les habla Fernando Méndez. Estamos en compañía de Fernando Treviño. Marlene Rodríguez nos dirige y regresamos en un momento. Señores oyentes de Úsala Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Round Table. Les habla Fernando Méndez. Nos acompaña Fernando Treviño hablando sobre redistricting, entre otras cosas. Bueno, cambiando un poco de tema, porque hay tanto en las
hay
noticias,
mucho, tocayo,
¿no? Algo pues interesante y controvertido, el asunto de las mascarillas, otra vez. ¿Ok? So, Kevin McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy hablando basura ahí en el Congreso, diciendo que esto es todo un plan político de Pelosi, no tiene nada que ver con la ciencia, etc. He is totally wrong, saying that this is just political on the part of Pelosi, to enrich herself. I don't see that connection either. He says she's just protecting her wealth. I don't see how, unless he has other insights into her wealth. And we know that they are opposing the use of masks. Now, why? When the science is telling us that there is a more dangerous version of COVID-19, Delta, going around that is more easily transmitted, and that it's already spreading, especially in the Southwest.
Yeah, so look, let's clarify something, Tocayo. Nancy Pelosi is, a Democrat progressive woman from California. So she will always be the perfect scapegoat for Republicans. Republicans are going to blame anything and everything on her just because she fits the profile of what the Republican base hates. That doesn't mean absolutely anything to us. We know that this is just misinformation and that this is just the cheap political parlor tricks that Republicans have used always. Unfortunately, sometimes it works. Right? It worked in 2016 by electing Trump. It didn't work out last year, obviously, when Biden was able to defeat Trump. However, we were talking a few minutes ago about the emergency powers of the governor of Pennsylvania and how using this kind of BS rhetoric, Republicans were able to take away those emergency powers. Republicans are doing this because they know that their base gets excited. Republicans are doing this not because they believe it. It's just plainly spoken because they know that their more conservative base gets rally up, gets excited, and they have a very important election next year. Next year already, can you imagine? Already, we're gonna have the midterm election after of the first Biden term. So usually, what happens in a midterm election, as you know, is that the country votes against the president and the party who just won the White House as a checking system, as a reaction of the first 2 years. So Republicans really believe that they can actually win this if they cheat, if they scare people, and if they gerrymander maps. And I don't want to keep coming back to this piece, but there's one specific reason why Republicans around the country, in Georgia, in Texas, they want to start doing it in Pennsylvania. They are trying to limit the capacity of people to vote. They are passing all over the place voter restriction bills to make it harder for people to vote, because they know that that's the only way to win. So if they make harder to vote for Democrats, and if they scare and motivate at the same time their own base because of all of this masking rhetoric, they believe that they have a chance to win. And to be honest, they have. That's why, and we have mentioned this before in your show, it is so important that the Senate passes HR1 now in the Senate, that it's a bill that protects voting rights and actually prohibits partisan gerrymandering as well.
Yes, and the rhetoric is heated. I mean, why? I mean, Nancy Pelosi basically said McCarthy is a moron, and she said that in response to a question about what she
Well,
thought
he is.
about him,
Yeah, look, it's getting to that point. I think that before, Democrats used to be more moderate, in the sense that let the Republicans be the crazy ones and let them do it. It's not going to work. We are the grown-ups in the room. We are here to govern. And again, after 2016, all of that changed. So once in a while, Democrats have to fight back and have to push back, and that's what Nancy Pelosi is doing. We remember one of the debates last year when Trump went on one of his rants against during the debate, the same thing that he did with Hillary, and President Biden just turned around and said, "Oh, just shut up, man!" Like, once in a while, we need to push back. Once in a while, we need to tell them, "Shut, the f up." Once in a while, we have to tell them, "You guys are morons," because they deserve that. So that's the reality. Sorry.
Yeah, well, Representative Ryan responded to McCarthy saying that the people coming to Washington from hotspots around the country where COVID-19 has, revived, that they put everybody in Congress in jeopardy because they come to Washington. They fly to Washington, they take a train or a bus to Washington, and they bring whatever poison they picked up in their districts, and so they could infect other congressmen, and those congressmen will go home, and their families could be in jeopardy. So that's why this, using the masks is important.
It is very important when basic science and health issues are politicized this way. It's very dangerous, and we have seen it in the U.S. We have seen it in Brazil. We have seen it even in Mexico. When this becomes a political issue, the consequences are paid by the people, and these elected officials don't care. So what is going on? For example, what happened in Pennsylvania? I don't know if I'm sure that but it was that bad, the political rhetoric, that there were 3 instances where Republican state representatives were infected with COVID. And in order not to spread their truth or anything like that, they didn't disclose their sickness. They went back to Harrisburg to work in the state legislature, and they actually started spreading COVID around. 3 times that happened with Republicans, with the whole idea of, let's not recognize the seriousness of COVID and the pandemic. I'd rather not to say anything that I'm sick, and I don't care if I infect some of my coworkers. So they just don't care.
Yeah, well, we know they got that from patient number 1, who is now retired in Mar-a-Lago, and we hope he stays there forever.
Well, Republicans are that crazy right now that if you ask any Republicans, the majority will respond that he should be the candidate for 2024.
Yeah.
So right now, if the presidential election of 2024 happens today, Donald Trump would be the Republican candidate.
Yeah, except for a few things that he's losing his touch. I mean, the election in Texas, where he supported this person who lost in Texas. I don't remember the name right now, but anyway, that's not the only case where Republicans are wrong about the masks wearing. How about the committee to investigate January 6th? they have been opposed to that. And there's the ridiculous Congressman Andrew Clyde from Georgia, who said that the rioters on January 6th, if you look at it closely, was more like a tourist visit.
The lack of responsibility, the lack of patriotism shown by these Republicans in Congress is just baffling. We are talking about the political party that claims to be the Patriotic Party, the political party that claims to be the National Security Party, and they are literally defending un golpe de Estado, right? A coup, a political coup that happened this time around in the U.S. We are not talking about politics. We are not talking about anything else. This is basic and as simple as a group of individuals supported by President Trump, encouraged by President Trump, and aided by some Republicans, actually attempted to stop the democratic process in the U.S. They actually did a coup by trying, not the government or not the army participate, but they were trying to specifically stop the certification of the election. So that is a political coup. So the fact that you have some Republicans trying to defend what happened and trying to minimize when even members of their own law enforcement in the Capitol die defending them, it's just, I don't know what to say. I thought that nothing else would surprise me with Republicans. Wow, they really took it to a different level here.
Yeah, I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch the testimony of the four policemen, two from the Capitol and two from the District of Columbia, and they were really moving testimony about how their lives were in jeopardy, and showing video of at least one of them being squeezed between walls and the crowd. And then you hear McCarthy and McConnell saying that they were too busy working to watch the proceedings.
Once again, the fact that the Senate stopped the creation of a commission to investigate this, it's baffling. The fact that Republicans in the House propose two of the most conservative, crazy Trumpists in Congress to be part of the commission on the House, that Nancy Pelosi even said, like, no, I'm not going to accept them as part of this commission. That's what it's telling you. But I hate to keep coming back to Pennsylvania, Tocayo, but this also has a direct tie to Pennsylvania. One of the coordinators, one of the organizers of what happened in August 6th is a Republican state senator in Pennsylvania, Senator Mastriano. He actually rented buses. He actually drove in buses people from Pennsylvania, from his district, to participate in this issue, in this coup in DC. There are pictures and videos where they show him walking outside of the Capitol while this is going on. And to give you another crazy idea, right now, not only he is a member of the Senate, he hasn't been censured, or actually he hasn't resigned. He is the leading candidate, the leading Republican candidate to be the governor of Pennsylvania next year. So if the election would happen right now, the primary would happen right now, Senator Mastriano would be elected as the Republican candidate to run for governor in Pennsylvania next year. It's really at that level of craziness, and how our community, how Pennsylvania, it's directly in the middle of everything, from presidential campaigns to everything that is happening in Washington right now.
Wow. Well, thank you for that information, because from now on, I'm going to dedicate some time every show that I have between now and then to reveal who this person is, and to I'm sure that we can find quotes of what he has said before, what he has done. And so that's, he should be arrested, actually, because a lot of his compinches were arrested already. So yeah, he should be on the list. I wonder if the FBI is investigating him.
To be honest, I don't know. They should, of course, they should. I don't know, and I don't want to speculate on that. But yeah,
if not, I'm gonna write his name and submit it to the FBI.
And by the way, he's the same guy who is asking Pennsylvania to have an audit of the election, similar to what Arizona did that they didn't find anything. He's the same guy pushing to have something similar in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that one I knew, and I spoke about that previously. That's another absurd proposal to do something that. How many times have they recounted votes, not only here in Arizona and Georgia and everything, and to no effect on the results? Every time they lose. But this was all inspired by the big lie and helped by Giuliani and these other crazy people who support Donald Trump. So, Tocayo, believe it or not, here we are. At the end of this program, time really flies when we're having fun. So
that's for sure.
Any last minute recommendations, advice?
No, just a quick reminder for our friends. The redistricting process is boring, but it's very, very important, and we should be part of that. So stay in touch. Please get in contact with me. Pay attention to what's going on in Harris. We're more than happy to provide help and more information. And if you don't mind me saying the same thing in Spanish, un último mensaje, amigos. Sabemos que este proceso de redistritación es un poco aburrido para mucha gente, pero es muy importante. Entonces, por favor, participen, manténganse informados, entren en contacto conmigo. Muy feliz de poder no solo ayudarlos a entender el proceso, pero también de apoyarlos para que participen en el proceso.
Muy bien, Fernando, muchas gracias por venir a nuestro programa y una información muy importante que nos has dado en el día de hoy. Quedas invitado para hacer esto cuando quieras.
Un placer, Tocayo, gracias.
Okay, señores oyentes de Úrsula Radio, les habló Fernando Méndez en compañía de Fernando Trevino, hablando sobre redistricting y otros temas. Marlon Rodríguez dirigió este programa. Muchas gracias, los esperamos hasta la próxima. Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Méndez, host of the Round Table. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news.